Welcome listeners to the latest episode of Future Secured. Today we're joined by Sam Fariborz, Chief Information Security Officer at David Jones. Beginning her career in IT service management and infrastructure, Sam transitioned to cybersecurity 9 years ago and has since risen to lead security for one of the country's premier retailers. Known for identifying opportunities in challenging situations, Sam brings a deep expertise in transforming complex cyber risks into resilience and competitive advantage. Sam was named one of Australia's top 30 cybersecurity leaders and was awarded Cybersecurity Professional of the Year by ASA last year. It's a big achievement. Now today we're going to dive in and explore her journey, values-driven leadership, and how culture and behaviour are reshaping what it means to be a CISO. So thank you, Sam, so much for taking the time to join us today. Thank you, as always, Joseph, my co-host. And over to you, Joseph, first question.
Thanks, Tom. And I just noticed my clock in the background hasn't been wound forward for daylight savings as well. So we're doing a 1 o'clock session and it's saying just after 12 in there. So Sam, thanks for joining us. And as Tom said on the intro, I think, you've won awards, but I think the award just for, as you are as a person, I've always been impressed with any interaction I've had with you. And I think your speech at the awards last year was fantastic as well. So Tom and I are really looking forward to this one and sort of digging in a bit. There's sort of so much we can sort of choose, to sort of go down. But I think, most of the listeners are pretty interested with most of our guests to just sort of find out sort of how did you get here? Like a lot of people sort of do aspire to be in your position. And often, as you found, and we were sort of speaking about beforehand, is sometimes, and I've had that with goals before, I've had a goal, I want to be this and get to that level. And then you get there and it's like, oh shit, it's not everything I sort of thought it would be. But just for the listeners, just Tom sort of covered a little bit of your background. Do you want to sort of fill in the gap wherever you want to start and sort of just move forward and just give us and the listeners a bit of background that they might not know about you?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Jason, Tom, for having me today. I started my whole career almost 2 decades ago as a service desk person. I started in service desk and I was working in infrastructure, different roles for quite a long time. And as you mentioned, Tom, 9 years ago, I shifted and moved into cybersecurity. And since then, I'm experiencing so much fun in cyber. And within cybersecurity, I've been in different roles, different domains of cyber. A few years, I was doing cybersecurity analyst role, leading enterprise security for quite some time. Then I shifted and moved to more program management, getting some experience around leadership and engagement and collaboration more with senior management. And now I'm here in David Jones as their CISO. It's been quite an interesting journey, especially in cybersecurity, as I said, and so much learning in all these years. I think being a CISO means, at least for me, I'm just talking about my own experience, at least for me, it means broad experience and broad knowledge across not just all cybersecurity domains, but also different business concepts and business subjects. What I found when I joined DJ and CISO was how much I need to invest on uplifting myself in finance and legal topics, because I heard a very good advice from someone, from a CIO a few years ago, and he was saying, if you want to be a good CISO, you have to put yourself in shoes of not just your CTO or CIO, but in your CFO's shoes. So you have to see everything from your CFO's perspective. So since then, I've been building and enhancing and lifting myself, let's say, my knowledge across finance and legal domains. And oh my God, content switching. Every day, I have to switch between too many different topics and having too many different conversations. From talking with our analysts about systems configuration or maintaining a solution, to a very high level working on a next report for the board. So you can see going from up to down and up to down and up to down, and it's every day and basically every a few, sometimes minutes, changing the topic. So I think that's a challenge. At the same time, it can be someone's strength that can help that person to thrive in their role as CISO or head of or a cybersecurity leader. And I needed to make decisions quick. I would say that's another strength, or that's another skill that a cybersecurity leadership has, or I'm using it a lot, or I'm having it here, because sometimes you need to make decision based on just the data that you have, and most of the time you don't have full data. But with the limited data and with the limited information that you have to make decisions quick. And it happens a lot during cyber incidents and incident responding to incidents, because you don't have yet, early days, you don't have the full picture, but you have to make decision quick. And I've seen that people are sometimes reluctant to make decisions, because making decisions comes with consequence of your decision. And I've seen it before that actions and initiatives in cyber delayed just because people didn't or couldn't make quick decisions. So yeah, and I think this is me day-to-day activities in David Jones and focusing on these items that I said.
It's a lot, isn't it? I think, and I think you raised some really good points there. Is that I think from a CISO point of view, it's so many moving parts, you know. So I think the traditional or first lot of CISOs that sort of came through were very technically based, but the role definitely evolved into something where, as you said, you know, financial sense. And we talk about a cost of living crisis, and that flows all the way through into teams, you know, where at COVID, a lot of people were throwing more money at this sort of stuff because everyone then went remote, and there was, you know, we have to secure online, and there was budget, you know, available in a lot of cases. On the other side of that, it's sort of gone the reverse, and now it's look at your tech stack, as you said, with the CFO hat on or with the financial hat, and say, where are we spending money we don't need to? You know, where are there issues in stuff that we could actually cut costs, or, you know, where do we need these people? Do we need these tools? Do we need all those sorts of things? You talk about the legal aspects when you go through frameworks, and there's legislation, and there's you know, people up the chain that we need to answer to. You got to answer to the board. It's so many moving pieces in the ecosystem. You know, what's been the biggest change or challenge or something that you didn't expect most when you sort of came into the role as CISO? Because you have worked, and, you know, as good as CISO in a lot of the other roles, you know, that you've done. But what was the main thing that you probably weren't prepared for, that you would say to people, this is something you really need to prepare for when you do step into the role?
I would say that's again the knowledge around the wider knowledge around corporate finance
Mm,
was something that I needed to upskill when I joined early days here. I can recall that the first a few months, I even signed up to a Coursera course around
mm,
corporate finance, because I was managing cyber programs, million dollar cyber programs in my previous roles.
mm,
So I didn't have any problem with budget management or working with finance team, but going one level up and going a bit more macro level, um, about corporate finance, what that means, and how business operates basically, was something that I needed to learn here, especially, like I said, in my early days and first a few months.
yeah, because it's a difference. It's a difference, isn't it, between when you've got something, if you're looking at it from, and then this is the balance in cybersecurity. I think that a lot of people have got to get is that how much do you secure it as well as letting the business run? So, and especially with retail, and this came up on a panel yesterday with Kmart, is that you've got to make the transaction easy for the customer on if they're going to buy online or something like that. So you've got, how do you make that customer transaction as clean as possible there, without putting too much stop in, and also how do you stop any sort of criminal from actually getting involved in that transaction. And then on the other side, again in retail, you've then got your people that work on the floor and have to access systems, and you've got people who work in your offices and have to do things. It's so many moving pieces, isn't it? And then as you say, from a corporate finance sort of sense, how does that then bump up the line? Because they're looking at it from, take you out of the picture for a sec, they're trying to get transactions as quick as possible. How can we get people to buy more stuff online? How can we put more pop-ups up there to get another sale? They bought a pair of shoes. How do we get them to buy socks and all that sort of stuff? So it's a fine balance, isn't it? That understanding the full balance, the balance sheets, the P&Ls, all those sorts of stuff, and that the business has got to run and it's got to be done securely. How do you balance all that out?
100%, 100%. It's super important for cybersecurity teams, as you mentioned, especially in retailers in Australia, which is my space at the moment. It's super important to find a balance here, because as much as you would love to go with banking industry standard, but you have to keep the balance here. We are a retailer. We are not a critical infrastructure retailer. We are not banking. We are not in banking industry. So I have to find a balance. And I'm a practical person. What I always focus on is fundamentals, and I still strongly believe that if we do the fundamentals of cybersecurity right, we have gone a long way in securing the company and securing customers' data. So this has been my focus to set the foundation and get the fundamental security controls right. But you're right, Jason, in terms of the challenge here to finding the balance. And I think it needs, again, understanding the business and understanding business objectives and business goals, because my agenda should be aligned with the wider business agenda. I cannot follow just picking one randomly. Information security, Australian Information Security Manual, which is designed for IRAP and designed for defense departments, I cannot implement and I cannot follow that framework into a company like David Jones, which is not highly regulated here. It has to be aligned with what business needs from me. At the same time, always having customers and customers' data protection in mind with any security initiative that I'm focusing on.
And I'd just really love to know, in retail in general across Australia, what kind of threats do you think are the most prominent? Because I imagine, from insider threats to people on the floor doing the wrong thing to, AI bots hitting to people trying to leverage those online kind of places. What do you think is the kind of top things that are occupying your time at the moment?
I can talk more generally about what's happening, what I'm seeing basically in Australian retail industry. I think with AI coming into the picture, we are now seeing more bot attacks across all e-commerce platforms. So I would say that used to be a big issue, and now it's becoming a bigger issue with AI, because it's helping all threat actors to utilize and use AI capabilities for bot attacks. So that's something that I'm seeing. Apart from that, I would say credential stuffing, which is not 100%. I would say it's a mutual responsibility between me as a customer and companies, because it needs some level of understanding and awareness across Australian societies, how they have to protect the credentials, how they have to protect the username, password, what the best practice look like. I think we missed that part. We still have a long way to go in terms of educating the wider society around that. And part of it is basically a retailer responsibility, which a retailer should has proper customer identity and access management in place to protect all customers' credentials and accounts. So I would say it's a partnership. It's a shared responsibility in this case. And with recent incident that we had a few months ago. Um, I can say that to me that's probably the second cyber threat that I'm seeing across retailers, which increase. And as always, DDoS, they've been having that for ages.
Yeah. And also, Sam, like that, and I think you've always been, I mean, you've won awards and you've been a good mentor, a great mentor to other women in the industry. And the numbers are bumping up and it is increasing. But what other tips could you give? Because you have been, as a mentor and a champion, and people do look up to you, both male and female. But to go to where you've sort of gone to, what advice do you give, and have you given that you've found has really been impactful for helping people, sort of come up? I know that, Nigel Hedges was a great, sort of mentor for you, and you've had others yourself, and now you're sort of that mentor and that sort of guiding light for other people to follow. What are some of the tips that you're giving to people, from a mentoring point of view in the industry, and just more generally?
Let me start with women. I think what we need to focus on for women is more about building self-confidence,
Mm,
because we have too many capable women out there looking for jobs in cybersecurity, but they don't have the right level of confidence to go to the industry events and start talking with people, start building relationship, building connection, and even talking about their achievements. I'm guilty of it myself, because I remember a few years ago I was listening to someone talking about his achievements and what he achieved in his company and what he delivered. And when the conversation ended, I was reflecting on, okay, what did I achieve in my company? How can I, um, how I am talking about my experience and my achievements? And there was a big difference between how I'm presenting myself and how that person was presenting himself, because I was going into the details and not, I was a bit shy about talking about my achievements. I was shy about telling people I'm the best. I did everything that I could do. I don't know, I raised visibility over vulnerabilities from 0 to 80%. I presented cyber strategy to the board for the first time, and I my board endorsed my cyber strategy for the first time. Those kinds of, I think the lack of self promotion, I think that's a big problem, and self confidence, that's a big problem. That when I talk with especially women, that's the first key that I'm mentioning to them, because they achieved a lot, but they don't talk about their achievements, or if they talk, they're not talking about their achievements in a way that they should be. So
mm,
that's the first thing. And the second one is investment on their technical knowledge. Uh, it's super important. I don't like this message that we give people to cybersecurity shouldn't be technical. To me, cybersecurity is technical matter.
mm.
At least we have to have some, yeah, and regardless of you're a woman or you are a man, I think that is important. You should have some level of understanding about the technical side of cybersecurity when you want to enter the um, this industry. So, and what's wrong with being a technical person?
Mm,
I don't understand that part. It's cool. It's fun. So
yeah.
why we are just depromoting that side of cybersecurity and just focusing on to encourage people to come into this industry, I think we are taking a wrong way. Just encouraging them to know the cybersecurity, you shouldn't have the technical. So that's something else that I usually encourage people to just build knowledge.
Excellent points. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that's something that sort of falls to the wayside sometimes. And yeah, it is a broad church, and we do need a large collective of people, in cyber. And I think this goes back and almost talks to, and I mean, it's been great. I've known you for years, and I've seen you grow, just as a person, and and sort of come out of yourself. I have seen that, And I think you're a great mentor because you've put yourself in really uncomfortable situations to grow yourself. And even just talking when you come into the role from a financial sense, it's continuous learning. And I think that's for all of us. Doesn't matter if in cybersecurity or whatever you're doing in life, if you're not continually learning and growing, the world is moving so quickly. And we talk about machine learning and AI and all these different things. If you're not keeping at the forefront of it, you're going to fall behind really quickly. And especially in cyber, we talk about the attack vectors and all the different things that are happening, and the people on the attacking side are doing stuff all the time and sharing knowledge and actually growing and expanding. And we need to do the same here. We need to work more collectively. We need to share knowledge. So I really appreciate you sharing that, because I think you brought up some fantastic points there. And as you said, it's not just males and females. Some guys need to speak up more and actually talk. There's a lot of introverted people on that side of the fence too, that just have got absolute skills and something they can give to the community. And I'm sure Vaughan would mind saying, I remember when Vaughan was doing sidearm, and I said to him, it was at the start of COVID and a bit of a flat spot. I said, you got to get out there, you got to start posting, you got great knowledge, and people need to hear from you because your opinions matter, and you should be out there actually putting your opinions out there. And I love reading Vaughan's stuff. He's very forthright now. He'll pick up if something's happening, like he did just one recently on startups and the startup community and stuff like that. We need to be sharing our opinions and be strong with respect out in the market to help others and lift ourselves up. Because Australia more generally is very much that tall poppy syndrome. And if you do sort of raise your head up, people sort of come along and chop it down. So I'm glad you're out there and quite comfortably sharing this sort of thing. So those tips, I'm sure Tom will clip those up, because that's some golden nuggets there just on information for people to follow. So yeah, thanks for that. But I'll leave to Tom. I'll step back off my soapbox and let Tommy ask the next question.
All right, that was great, Jason. Look, Sam, we were chatting earlier, and you were talking about how people have this idealized role of a CISO. I want to be a CISO, and there's a very, very different picture, and it's not.
I don't, Tom. I don't want to be a CISO.
No,
I know too many of them, but I don't want to be a CISO.
Well, not just that. I mean,
I love them, but I don't want to be one.
Crack the chops. But I think it's great to aspire to these roles. But you were talking about there needs to be a little bit more realism, and a little bit more kind of like flowing back downhill of what it's actually like. So I'd love if you could just touch on some of the things that kind of almost you wish you'd known, or you wish were basically more broadly known about people aspiring to these kind of roles.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Sam's
I
going
would
to say, don't do it. I want to
no,
back out.
no. I
No,
never,
I'm
I never
joking.
tell
I'm
anyone.
joking.
I never tell anyone that don't do it. It's
Don't do
people.
it.
It's people decisions. It's individuals' decision. They have to make decision about their career. It's not me telling them you should go or you shouldn't go, or you're capable or you're not. This is not my business. But I think we don't talk enough about challenges of this role. I think people mostly see the bright side of being a CISO. People mostly see all the acknowledgements and recognitions that CISOs get in events and on social medias. But people don't see the other side, all the challenges that we're facing. And I think this is my responsibility to start talking about these challenges, because if somebody wants to make a decision, they have to make the decision with knowing all aspects and all sides of the role. I think what I didn't know before, although I was working with a great CISO in my previous companies, and I knew somehow how much pressure this role has, but I obviously didn't have any experience being in this role, so it was new to me. And especially first 6 months, I would say were 6 months of huge transition, from being a manager to being a senior manager and being fully accountable for cybersecurity practice. That level of accountability was one key challenge that I had first a few months, because in all my previous roles, there was someone that I could relate to, I could go to in case if I had any problem. this time it was me sitting here and people coming to me asking for help. So my team was looking into me for help and was looking to me for advice, but it was the other way for all my previous roles. So having the full accountability and responsibility was a huge change, and so much pressure is coming with having that level of accountability. Because if something goes wrong, I'm responsible person. I'm accountable person here. So that was one big challenge, and I was having a very quick chat with Tom before coming to this conversation. I was saying some part of your brain is always um, awake. Let's say even I'm sleeping, because 24/7 I have to be on call, and I have again coming back to that responsibility and accountability. Um, some part of my brain always is thinking about the work, though I'm not
Mm.
working, but
Doesn't shut
um,
down.
no.
Mm.
So that's something that people, like, I think, don't see a lot.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and the you need to sacrifice basically lots of stuff. You need to sacrifice your personal time sometimes. You need to sacrifice sometimes your own health, because, for example, when you're having, though there is some ways that you can manage it, which I'm using,
Mm.
but when you're in meeting, for example, all day, 9, 10 hours in a day, you're in meeting, you don't get that much break or that much time to even stretch your legs.
Mm.
So, and all this stuff is basically your health. And you're
Yeah.
sacrificing your health. You're sacrificing your time with your family. Um,
As you
and
said, your sleep as well, you'll sleep so because your brain is going like I find just doing the business I do, I'm the same. I just know my brain doesn't switch off. I have found, just as a sidebar, meditation. I've gone back into doing meditation, just clearing the mind and saying to the mind, you don't need to think anymore. This is time just to meditate, and you can just clear the thoughts and to do that. I think we need to do that, and I just know from knowing a lot of CISOs that and Dan Maslin's been a great example of someone who has really he's turned his health around, doing the F45 and eating and walking more and all that sort of stuff. Because this is again is another great point that you bring up, and I don't think a lot of people realize is that and I know a lot of CISOs have turned to, and some of them heavily drink. Like it's sort of as a coping mechanism of sort of switching off. Is they'll you know crack the top out of a bottle of whatever, and that's their sort of coping mechanism. We're not obviously recommending that and not saying it's a great thing, but it happens, right? It's a very stressful job. I think people need to realize is that, especially in Australia, there's a lot of pressure on. If you do slip up or you do make a mistake, the first thing they're looking at and pointing at is you. And I was actually, just as a thing too, Sam, this morning there was a call with the national coordinator and the 4 bank CISOs. So they were sort of talking, and I know between them, one of the first points of call is they all call each other. So if something happens at one bank, they the 4 of them talk as a coping mechanism. And I know you've got some really good CISO friends. Do you tend to call like Nigel or other people? Do you have people that you have still as a sounding board? I know he's busy with Chemist Warehouse, and I can't even catch him myself at the moment. But you've probably got a better bat line to him. But is that something you can use as a coping mechanism you recommend as well, that you have peers and people in your circle that you can sort of bounce things off?
I cannot tell you how it's been helpful in this role. Having good supportive community, yes, definitely, 100%. We have a few groups, obviously, with my peers, and we have subgroups about CISOs and head ofs in retail industry, for example. And even sometimes
Mm.
I feel it's like a therapy session, because we all are singing the same song and we all are complaining about the same thing. And
Mm.
yes, 100% sharing. I recall that a few weeks ago, we had a message from one of the CISOs, and he was saying, "Hey, just be mindful about these threat actors, and these are the IOCs, and just check for that." And we acted on his message very quickly, and that was very helpful. So no, 100%, 100%. And I think, Jason, setting the boundaries here is important, and understanding your values is super important too. Because, like I said, first a few months for me was challenging, but then I adapted. How I get into that was I reevaluated my values here. When I reevaluated my values, that helped me a lot to stay to my values every day and remind myself about my values. And I can tell you my three values. One on top of everything else is health, and the second one is dignity, and the third one is connection. So for me, health is on top of everything else. So I I understood that with the demand that my role has, I cannot go to the gym anymore. So that was something that I used to go a few days in a week. But I cannot go to the gym anymore. But how I managed that was I have my dumbbells and bench and everything else in the same room that I'm working. And in my lunchtime, or even if I have, I don't
A
know,
little
10
break.
minutes, yes, I use that. So
Mm.
that's been definitely helpful. It's just the matter is what is important for me and
Yep.
what is my value, and then I can work around that.
Because without health,
Well,
you have nothing.
yeah.
That's the thing. And it
Yeah.
was good to see you do some bicep curls under the desk while we were talking as well. So I was pretty happy to see that going on. Tom's just kicking his dog around over at his place at the
Yeah.
moment. So that's all he
I do
talks
love
next as
that,
well.
Sam. At home, I've got the weights bench and that just right next to me and stuff like that. Also, yeah, dropping down to do those uncomfortable things like a plank for a minute, it actually kind of refreshes and it allows you to come back into work much sharper. One of the things that you're talking about values is that you've had a lot of awards around your kind of leadership and stuff like that. And when we were chatting earlier, you were talking about you lead with compassion. So how do you go about leading teams in these kind of dynamic environments? Sometimes there's a lot of turnover, finding the right people as well. What are the kind of some of the things you do around leadership, and what do you look for in people that is kind of great qualities to have in teams that are good at incident response?
Mhm. I think for me, everything starts from the first step, which is hiring. Um, a candidate might has all the technical, might tick all the technical requirements, but if that person is not right fit for the company culture, or more importantly, if that person is not right fit for the cybersecurity team spirit and culture, that's a big no for me. So that's a start from the first step. Um, and I've been very mindful about the people that we hire in the team. And I'm very lucky I have great team at the moment in David Jones. Very much aligned with each other and very much aligned with the company culture. And I think sometimes, your gut feel tell you if that person is trustworthy or not. That trustworthiness is another key aspect, because um, teams cannot function very well and tolerate this level of this volume of work um, if they cannot trust each other. So I have to be able to trust my team. If I'm leaving, I don't know, if I'm leaving for a few days, I have to have a trustworthy team. Then I can rely on them. Um, so that trustworthiness during the hiring process is something else that I consider always. And like cybersecurity, like as I mentioned, cybersecurity is fun, and it has to be fun for the whole team. I ensure that my team has enough time or spend time in cybersecurity events. For example, is a CyberCon coming next week. So I ensure that cyber team are attending these sorts of valuable events. Then they can step away, even for a few hours, from their day-to-day job and engage and connect with their industry peers, seeing everything from each other's perspective, while sharing their knowledge, sharing their experience. I think this is helpful. It's helping with taking that pressure off the team a lot. And Yeah, I think and I think I can connect I can connect it again with setting boundaries. I think I ensure that my team set their boundaries if it's not necessary, if there's no major incident, or if there's nothing, if there's nothing that they have to be at work, they should switch off. When
Mm,
5 p.m., they should switch off. I don't need them to be always on Teams and respond back to my message after work. They have to switch off. If they are taking leave, I ensure that they are taking leave and they are taking break. Because sometimes you're taking break and leave, but you are still working. It's not healthy.
mm.
So these kinds of small but helpful practices, I would say.
Yeah, and also on that, just with the team, how do you, because you come into a new environment and you've used certain tooling before, or and there's new stuff coming out all the time. I think with AI and agentic AI and all these things we're hearing at the moment. I was at an event yesterday and saw a new tool from Israel, never even seen before. Like I was saying, talking about that with Tom this morning. But how do you keep up to date? So you're going to have a strategy, you know what you want to achieve, and the sort of things you're sort of looking at. But how as a team do you pass that down from saying, yes, I'm the CISO, I have the ultimate decision, but you're working in my team and you're responsible for this. So I do trust you if you're going to an event like an ASA event or to something else to, if you see something, I trust that you'll do the research on it and then come to me and see how that fits within our strategy. How do you balance that out, Sam, from yours? Because you got obviously got a strategy. There's new threats, new attacks, all that sort of stuff, but we also got to try and keep up to date with what's happening from a tooling sort of point of view and other aspects. How do you balance that with being
Mhm,
busy and then also trying to find the best ways to protect your organization at the best price with a financial hat on as well?
mhm. A few points. One is cyber strategy is a dynamic document.
Mm,
It's not concrete, and we have to be able to change it based on um, how organization and how company is changing, and based on external threats, and based on any new event that is coming to security teams or company in general.
mm,
So we have to be able to change the strategy. Though for me, I have some key pillars within my strategy, which are my North Star. Anything that which those key pillars are very much connected to the company objectives and company goals. Whatever I'm doing in any initiative that I start in cybersecurity should contribute to those goals and should contribute to those pillars. Because we have an agenda, an agenda for this year. We have a target for this year, and we have to meet our target.
mm,
In between, I still would like to understand what's going on in industry and what's available in the industry. So that's why from time to time, and this is again my time management skill, from time to time, I would like to explore a new tool with vendors. And usually I start with the vendors that I get good feedback from the industry peers.
mhm,
Um, just saying, for example, just picking, not necessarily, it's not in my agenda now, but just saying, I'm looking for a DSPM solution.
mm,
Um, and first place I go and ask is that community that I have with my peers. Ask them, what do you use? How has been your experience with that particular tool? And then I start talking with vendors and demo sessions with vendors and understand more about that tool in details. Um,
mm,
so I save some time, say, in my schedule for these types of conversations because this is part of my job. I have to know what's going on in industry, where industry is going. So I have to spend some time on that, but it's not like I pick and choose randomly someone who just
mm.
sent me a cold message on LinkedIn saying, "Can I get 30 minutes of your time demoing
Yeah.
this?" new
Yeah, it's got to
AI
fit
tool.
within your strategy. That's, I think, and this
Exactly.
is something that we try and tell vendors all the time, because Tom and I, like on the Murphin side, we're often dealing with vendors and sort of say that, there's no use trying to, square peg and round hole. And if you actually take time to understand what people's needs are, so again, I know you and lots of CISOs, is that I know if someone's looking for something, I can usually marry that up. If someone reaches out, that's the best way to sort of get in there and just basically they should understand the business and understand the strategy and know if it's going to be a fit, rather than just cold pitching. Some people just do a blast out of the same message to multiple people. If you don't understand the person or the business, then don't approach them, or look for the right person in their team that would actually benefit most from that tooling, that you could say, hey, here's something that might be able to help you. Then they'll deliver that back up the CISO. People pepper the CISO all the time for stuff which is irrelevant, and you could actually be a better place actually going through the team to someone that's going to help in the team to help match a strategy. So I think people just got to get smarter. And that's common sense, but that's sort of my view on it, and from feedback I've had from not just yourself but other people in industry, is just be a bit smarter the way you approach. The amount of peppering that CISOs get just from random people going, hey, yeah, can I go 30 seconds? I reckon this is the best thing ever. And it's like, it's going to have no relevance for that CISO, but they're just pitching it because they're just doing a scattergun approach. So just be more targeted with what you do. And as you can see from this podcast, CISOs are busy people. It's probably a 25/8 job, like we sort of talk about here, Tommy, with the sort of hours you put in. So just be more respectful when you're actually approaching that you're doing something of benefit and helping someone, and approach with respect. So again, I'll step back off the soapbox, but that's something that I think they need to understand in industry. So
Yeah, and I imagine CyberCon, it's one of those places where you become a very prized resource, and everyone's trying to get in your ear. So,
Sam,
Sam,
how's it
like I
going?
want 5 minutes. How do you kind of handle that side when everyone's on broadcast to you? Are you going to wander the booth floor and kind of look for some new things, or are you just going to kind of stick to the more speaker side of it?
Okay, two different parts.
She's going
In
to go there and win the award, Tom. We should say it's back-to-back awards. So Sam will first go there to collect the award. Yeah, there we go. And Tom's leaving some
No,
fireworks up. There you go.
this year I'm presenting the award. Actually, I'm not collecting the award. I'm presenting ISO award to the next lucky person. Um,
Can't go
anyway,
back-to-back.
look, in terms of the speakers and what talks I would like to hear and attend their sessions, obviously prior to the CyberCon, I plan for my days. So, who I know, first of all, who I know is a good speaker, is a knowledgeable person in industry, and I would like to hear more from that person. So that is one criteria for me to shortlist a talk. And the second one is basically the topic of the talk. If that's a
Mm,
topic that is in my interest, or if it's something that these days I'm exploring, that's something else that I add to the plan. And in terms of the vendors and what vendor I go to their booth and start talking with, I am a strong believer to partnership with vendors. So I always start with the current vendors that we have here and current partners that we have in David Jones. I work with them day to day. I always go to them in these sorts of events to at least say hi. This is important to me. And the second one is just randomly going around the hall and see based on my agenda for this year, what vendors we have and which one I don't know and I need to talk with. And there was one that I recall from last year's CyberCon. For the first time, I was having a chat with that vendor. And the demo that they did that day was super helpful for me. And after a year, we ended up starting a POV with that vendor. So yeah, this is my approach for the day. But
mm,
yeah, it's joyful at the same time because I know too many people in the industry. When you're passing, you're going from one room to other room, or when you're walking around the event, you always too many highs and too many how are
mm,
yous, which is was giving me joy.
Nice
mm.
problem to have.
And
And
Sam's
just
doing signatures and then taking photos of people, all that sort of stuff as
yeah,
well. So
That's not me, Jason. That's you.
we'll grab a photo together. Look, and just finally, just a very brief kind of wrap up. Where should the attention being paid in your industry? Is it, as you said, around AI bots? Is it insider threats? Or is it? No, it's hard to put it down to one thing, but where do you think the part of or a majority of that focus needs to be over the next 12 months for someone like you?
all of the
Being
above.
all of the above, yes. But if I want to just pick a few, I would say be clear about what's the ask from your team and from the business. What's your ask? What do you expect them to do? You have to be very clear about cyber principles, at least having a baseline about these are cyber principles, and you have to adhere to these principles in any new solution or any changes or so forth. So be clear about your ask from others. Set the foundation. I can't emphasize on that a lot. Stick with fundamentals. We have too many problems at the moment, even with fundamentals. And I sometimes I'm surprised when people they don't have that fundamentals in place and they look into the shiny tools, bringing in shiny tools. To me, that's not a good practice in cybersecurity. So stick with fundamentals of cybersecurity. Focus on identity and access management. Focus on protecting your accounts. Focus on data protection. How you're protecting your data. Focus on your endpoints detection and response tools. Do you have cover across all assets? Understanding about, I don't know, any malicious activities on those endpoints. Focus on your perimeter. Focus on your firewalls. Focus on your network security. What traffic is coming? What traffic is going out? Just key fundamental aspects of cybersecurity. Do you have multi-factor authentication enabled for everything? Because this is still a challenge, especially in bigger companies. Do you have good understanding about your service accounts security? That is another massive problem. Privilege access management. Do you have visibility over who has access to what? Do you know what assets you have? Start with having an asset management tool in place. So those kind of fundamentals, and then we can think about, okay, just going to the next level and next level and next level. If you're not getting the basics right, anything else is not going to help us.
Yeah.
I really
Well
like
said.
that. Look, any good system starts with getting the basics under control. That was really fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us today, Sam. Looking forward to bumping into you briefly at CyberCon.
For an autograph and a photo, Tom.
For an autograph and a photo. And look, there's a lot of great tips you've shared today. So listeners, you can find Sam on LinkedIn. And of course, we all know where David Jones is, both online and in store. So if you're wandering around and you're in that shopping centre, just think of the work Sam's doing at the back end to keep you all safe. So
sign up to our loyalty program.
There you go. Sign up to the loyalty program. Thanks again,
and Tom's
Sam,
got to stop
joining.
shoplifting from there, Tom. You got to go back to Maya now. No more shoplifting from David Jones.
Maya's going to be gone soon. Yeah, from the look of it. And thank you, Jason, again for joining us. So
thanks,
Tommy. Guys. Have a lovely day.
Thanks, Sam.
Thanks so much. Thank you. Thanks for having me.